Okay, good morning. Good morning, Rabbi. We are continuing on Masechet Chagigah. And we are on Daf Vav, Amud Bet. The limud of Amud Yomi for Chodesh Adar has been sponsored anonymously, and the limud of Amud Yomi and the entire learnings of Kilat B'nai Torah for today and the next week has been dedicated by Dr. Avraham Shai for Refuah Shlema of Chai Ben Zarina, who has an operation today. That Be'ezrat Hashem, the operation should go well, and he should have Refuah Shlema. Amen. So we have 10 lines up from the bottom of Vav Amud Bet, and just the little remnants of yesterday's pasuk that we started discussing, and that is the pasuk that you still see over there, Vayishlach et na'arei b'nei Yisrael, that prior to Matan Torah even, Moshe Rabbeinu sent people and they brought zvachim shlamim la'Hashem parim, and they brought olot, and says the Gemara, Ba'i Rav Chisda, Haikra hechiktiv. This pasuk speaks about korban olah and speaks about korban shlamim. The only problem is one half of it is explained, what type of korban you brought. The other half of it is not explained, what korban you brought. It says in the beginning, and then it says, they brought zvachim shelamim laHashem parim. The korban shlamim that they brought was parim, was cows, bulls. But by vayalu olot, it doesn't say what type of olot. So I could read this pasuk, depending on where you put the comma, in two different ways. You could either read that Moshe Rabbeinu sent these people, vayalu olot, and they brought olot, comma, and what is the regular olah? Korban olah. What's regular korban tamid? Sheep, right? Every day you bring olat boker, olat ben harbaim, olat tamid shel shachar, tamid shel ben harbaim is always a sheep. Regular korban olah is a sheep. So maybe I should read the pasuk, vayalu olot, comma, which means a regular olah, sheep, vayizbechu zvachim shelamim laHashem, and they shechted zvachim of shlamim, and what were they? The shlamim, parim. They were parim. Do I read the pasuk like this, or do I read it all together? Vayalu olot vayizbechu shlamim laHashem parim. They brought olot and zivchei shlamim, and all of them were parim. All of them were cows. You see how you could read the pasuk completely differently depending on where you put the comma, right? Nothing about us is honestly, who cares? Something that happened 3,500 years ago. So Chazaku Baruch. They brought olot. Okay, they brought shlamim, they brought olot. The olot was a sheep, the olot was a cow. What is the big difference? Says the Gemara. So let's read the Gemara inside. Ba'i Rav Chisda, Haikra hechiketiv, ve'ishlach et na'arei b'nei Yisrael, ve'yalu olot kvasim. Does it mean they brought olot of kvasim, of lambs, ve'yizbechu zvachim shelamim laHashem parim, and then they added zivchei shlamim that were bulls, cows, or Dilma, or maybe idi parim. Maybe both of them, parim havu, they were cows. Gemara says, Lamai nafkamina, who cares? What's the nafkamina? So Gemara is going to give us two nafkaminas. A, Morzutra amar lepisuk damim. Morzutra said, it's important to know where the comma is when you read the pasuk, because you are saying what happened, and depending on where you put the comma, literally changes the meaning of the pasuk. Rav Acha read the Rava Amar. Rav Acha read the Rava says a very simple nafkamina, a very simple difference. Says nowadays, you could make an edarim, right? You could say, I am hereby donating something to Beit HaMikdash, and that becomes a reality of neder, right? Your words create reality, right? We always say that Chatan and Kala go under the chuppah. He says one sentence, and now the reality of their life is different. Now she's a Eshet Ish, she's married, right? When you say Hare Alai Ora, I'm hereby committing to an Olah, Korban Olah. Now you're obligated to bring a Korban Olah. Now, how about if you said a phrase like this? Hare Alai Olah. You said, I am hereby committing to a Korban Olah, but you didn't stop right there. You said, Ki Olah sheikrivu Yisrael b'midbar. You got all excited about this first Korban that the Jews are bringing in the Midbar. I said, I want to bring a Korban Olah just like the first Olah, the communal Olah that they brought in the Midbar. Chazaku Baruch. Now you have a chiyuv of Korban Olah. But what type of Korban do you bring? You committed yourself to what they brought. So now you have to understand, if they brought a bull, they brought a sheep. Now it makes Beit HaMikdash. So says the Gemara. My parim habu or kvasim habu? Was it parim? Was it kvasim? And the Gemara ends up with saying teku tishbi tares kushot v'avayot. We don't have a clarity on this question. So says the Gemara, last line of the daf. Tenan hatam. We learned in the Mishnah, and this is a Mishnah in Masechet Pe'ah. Elu devarim she'elahem shu. Hopefully you say this every morning by tefillah. These are the things that don't have shiur, don't have a set limit. You could do, the more you do, the better it is, right? HaPe'ah ve'habikurim. Everyone knows what the pe'ah is, right? Ve'habikurim. When you have a land, you leave corners of it as pe'ah for the aniyim to be supported. You don't harvest it, you leave it for the aniyim. Bikurim is the first crops that you have, first fruits that you have. V'harayon, rayon is of course the topic of our sugya, right? Rayon coming to Beit HaMikdash, bringing korban. Gimilut chasadim, v'talmud Torah, right? Acts of kindness and Talmud Torah. These are things that don't have shiur, says the Mishnah. So says the Gemara, this is talking about our sugya, right? We started this perek, hakol chayavim b'reiyah. Everyone is chayav to come 3 times a year to Beit HaMikdash. And then we just also learned in the previous piece of our Mishnah, a shiur, a measurement for how much you have to spend on Korban Re'iyah, right? We mentioned this machloket Bet Hillel and Bet Shammai. The 2 offerings that you bring every time you go to Beit HaMikdash, it was Shalmei Chagigah, that you bring a Korban Chagigah, and to celebrate, and you have a Korban Re'iyah, the Olat Re'iyah. That is part and parcel of coming to Hashem, so to speak. You don't come empty-handed, you come with something. That's part of coming. That's Olat Re'iyah. It's a Korban that all of it is burnt on the Mizbeach. So that's part of, having Derech Eretz. You come to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you don't come empty-handed, you go there with the Korban. And we mentioned that Bet Shammai says Re'iyah has to be more expensive, right? Shtei kesef. And Chagigah Ma'akes, Bet Hillel says exactly the opposite, that the Korban Chagigah has to be more expensive. That is Shtei Kesef, and the Re'iyah is Ma'akes, right? This is what we're coming off of. Now we have a Mishnah that says they don't have a shiur. So how do you understand that? We just got finished saying a shiur, a limit of spending, a minimum limit of spending on the Korban, and now you say it has no limit. So of course, me and you would say what? the limit is for how expensive you could have. The limit of our Gemara is you can't go lower than ma'akesef, right? But how much you could spend, be my guest. Give the credit card and American Express, yalla, it will be Yerushalayim Express, right? Yerushalayim Express, and you spend however much you want, the more the better. That's what we would understand. That's what the Gemara starts with, right? It says the Gemara, Amar Rabbi Yochanan Kispurin Anu, we would think, Lomar ha're'ayon en lo shi'ur lemala. We would have thought that this that we say doesn't have a shi'ur is lemala. That how expensive can it be? How much can I spend? Does it have a ceiling? It has no ceiling. That's what I would have thought. We would say that it does have a minimum shiur. It can't be cheaper than ma'akesef, according to Bet Hillel, right?
Even though the Mishnah stated, like you have a Mishnah stating directly that there is no limit, lower or higher.
Yeah, so no, it doesn't say lower or higher. It just says Elam Shiur. So Rabbi Yochanan says we would think Elam Shiur means there's no maximum. But minimum, the Gemara already said in Chagigah, Dafvav, that the minimum is ma'akesef according to Bet Hillel. That's how we would understand it, right? And that would mean that mideoraita, the Mishnah is telling you a biblical halacha. That if you would ask the level of Torah from Moshe Rabbeinu, how much do I spend on my korban re'iyah, the olat re'iyah, when I come 3 times a year to Beit HaMikdash? Moshe Rabbeinu would say, oh, you can't spend less than a ma'ah, but you can spend as much as you want. That's what we're thinking originally. That this halakha is a biblical level, that there is a limit of how low you could spend. Then, says the Gemara, we realize that that is incorrect. Until, says the Gemara, Ad Sheba, 4th line, Ad Sheba Rabbi Oshaya beRebbi, until Rabbi Oshaya came and he taught, Velimed, Harayon elo shiur lo lemala velo lemata. That the Korban Olav Re'iyah doesn't have a shiur above and doesn't have a minimum limitation below either. That means you could find as cheap as you want. If you find some good, healthy, fine animal on sale for 50% off, Chazak Baruch. Get it. No problem. It could be as cheap as you find it. Right? As long as it's healthy, there's of course, the category has to be a healthy category and so on. You can't bring a blemished one and so on. But it doesn't have a minimum shiur. Mideoraita. That's biblically. Aval Amru Chachamim, but Chachamim said, Hareya ma'akesef v'chagigah shtei kesef. Miderabanan, we have limitation. Chachamim came along and said, you shouldn't spend less than ma'akesef on a korban. It's not bekavadik. It's not a proper thing to spend less than a ma'akesef on a korban that you're bringing to Hashem, right? When you want to buy something for yourself, you would spend ma'akesef. Don't be cheap when it comes to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You're respecting Hashem. And, the Pasuk says, Hakrivenu na lifchatecha, ha'irsecha, ha'esab palecha. Says the korbanot, at some point Hashem complains about the quality of korbanot that people were bringing to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, right? And it says, if you would have taken this as a gift to your sheriff, would he accept it even from you? A human being wouldn't accept this. What kind of kavod is this, right? And this is, of course, the very first so-called mistake of humanity by Cain and Hevel, right? Cain was the innovative of the brothers. Hevel just followed the concept, the innovation of Cain. Cain was very smart, and he came up with the concept of civilization, city. He created all these things, right? There's no concept of city. Who started civilization living together? Cain. People should live together. Bonei Ir. He also created the concept of korbanot. The first person ever to create, it was him. He came up with the thing that if I have things, I'm going to give from them to Hashem, thanking him. But he also was a businessman. So he's like, well, Hashem is not really using this. He doesn't need it. The main thing is your heart should be good. I'm doing it because of Hashem. So who cares what quality it is? The concept that I am mindful to give to Hashem, that's the ikar. So he brought from the trash, from the lowest quality, because of this logic that Hashem is not anyways using it. I'm doing it to show that I am mindful of Hashem, and that's good enough. Hevel, who copied the concept from Cain, he had the sense that this is no, if you bring it to Hashem, you bring the best. You're killing the best animal that you have in your flock. If you give it to Hashem, you got to give the best. And surprisingly, not so surprisingly, Hashem rejected Cain's offering, even though that he was the innovator. He was the one that came up with it. So you bring this. If you're bringing, you bring the best, right? So therefore, Chachamim said it has to be even if you're not bringing the best, but it has to be a certain minimum. But midoraita, there is no minimum. Now, just in parentheses, anyone that learns the Mishnah in Pe'ah should have this question also, because the Mishnah starts saying, Elu devarim she'en lahem shiur. These are things that don't have a shiur, don't have a measurement. HaPe'ah, bikurim, blah, blah, blah. And then right away next Mishnah says a shiur for Pe'ah, the 1/60th. So how do you put it? And the same pshat is there too. The midoraita, there's no shiur. You put a little corner, like a little tiny bit of your land that you don't harvest, midoraita is fine. But come on, the point is you want to support aniyim, so it has to be something proper. So Chazal came along that even though that midoraita there is no shiur, because someone could be poor, someone could be rich, and everyone depending on who. Chazal came along and gave like a shiur. Like by teruma is the same thing. Teruma midoraita, you give 1 grain. Teruma, you're yotze, right? But Chazal came and said, well, if you have a person that is as generous will do this much. A person that is stingy would do this one. And a regular person would do 1/50th, right? So between 1/50th, 1/40th, 1/60th, that's really the generous, stingy, and regular. And the teruma mimea 200th, which is 1/50, is the shiur that Chachamim gave to the regular level of truma. So all that is the same theme. Here is the same thing. Midoraita, it could be as cheap as you want. It could be as expensive as you want. Midorabanan, Chazal said, there should be some standard. The minimum standard should be ma'akesef for, according to Bet Hillel, which is the halacha for korban reiyah. And again, en lahem shiur is that there's no, as long as you give, there's no measurement, right? That's definition of en lahem shiur. But you're suggesting that you shouldn't give anything, then you're not giving that. As long as you are giving, there's no shiur. Well, as long as it's not considered that you're harvesting that thing, right? So says the Gemara, my harayon, now we have a problem. And this is the core of this Amud is going to be this question. So let me explain this outside. My harayon is a loaded question. There's 2 words. My harayon is the core of this Amud. So my harayon means, it should have said my harayah. Until now, we didn't have re'ayon, right? We had korban re'iyah, mitzvat re'iyah. What's re'ayon? Re'ayon suggests more than just the re'iyah. Re'iyah would be if you would say, elu devarim she'en lahem shiur. These are things that don't have a shiur, and you would say pe'ah bikurim re'iyah. I would say it's talking about korban re'iyah. But re'ayon is suggesting the second element of a korban re'iyah as well. In other words, as we mentioned several times, including the first shiur of the Masechta, when we get a preface to the entire Masechta, the mitzvah of re'iyah, the mitzvah of coming to Beit HaMikdash, is 3 mitzvot. Like the Rambam brings it in Sefer HaMitzvot, Nun Gimel, I believe it is. The mitzvah of coming, which includes also the korban re'iyah, the mitzvah of Shalmei Chagigah and Shalmei Simcha. Those are the three mitzvot. Now, as we just mentioned, the first one has two parts. One is physically going to Har HaBayit from wherever you live in Yerushalayim or in outside Yerushalayim in Eretz Yisrael. You go up to Har HaBayit, and the second is once you go there, part of going is you don't go empty-handed. You bring a korban olah, right? So those are the two parts. So says the Gemara, re'ayon means both of them, right? Now, how does the Mishnah read in Pe'ah? These are things that don't have a measurement of how many times or how much. And re'ayon means, how much money you're going to spend on your korban olah. It could be as much as you want. It could be as little as you want. And the second is, how many times you're going to go to Har HaBayit. In other words, you go there for Sukkot, you go there for Pesach, Be'ezrat Hashem. So you go the first day. Can I go the second day? Or is it that's it? You go once, boom. Can I go every day?
Yeah.
Can I? That's going to be the question of the Gemara, right? That's going to be the question of the Gemara. Harayon ela shiur. Doesn't have a shiur. So that's the Gemara's understanding. Now that that's how we understand it, the Gemara is going to ask a question of what that means. Says the Gemara. Maya rayon. What is rayon? Rabbi Yochanan amar re'iyat panim ba'azara. Rabbi Yochanan says he means the literal coming to Azara. Has nothing to do with Korban. Resh Lakish amar re'iyat panim bekorban. Resh Lakish says it means you have to come with Korban. Every time that you come there, you have to bring a Korban. You can't ever come empty-handed. When it says in the pasuk velo yera'u panai rekam, you cannot see my face empty-handed. It means every time you come to the scene of Har HaBayit, which means yera'u panai cannot be rekam. Every time you come to you want to come the second day, chazak baruch, bring a korban. Third day, bring a third korban. Fourth day, if you're rich, bring every day. But when you come, you can't come empty-handed. That's what Resh Lakish says. Rabbi Yochanan says, no. He's talking about actual coming. It's nothing to do with korban. When it says en lahem shiur, means you could come every day. There's no limitation of how many times you could come. But it's not talking about korban. Korban is a mitzvah for the first day, for ikar haregel. That you can, of course, it says that you cannot come without korban. But once you did the base, you want to come tomorrow, chazak baruch. Korban, no, you don't need to bring korban. That's Rabbi Yochanan. You see how it is, the machloket of reading the pasuk. Resh Lakish says, Baba, it says over here, you can't see my face empty-handed. It means every time you come, you got to. Rabbi Yochanan says, no, that's a minimum only for the first day. Both of them are very logical. And that's what it goes through a back and forth to see which one is correct. Says the Gemara. Let's set what we are not arguing about, says the Gemara. So, be'ikar regel, the ikar of regel, which is the first day, nobody argues that you can't come empty-handed. That's that the pasuk says black and white clear, right? Lo pligi the re'iyat panim bekorban. That needs to be coming with korban. You cannot come empty-handed. Ki pligi b'shari yemot haregel. The argument of Rabbi Yochanan and Resh Lakish is the rest of the days of the Chag. Can I come second day empty-handed or not? Resh Lakish says you can't. Rabbi Yochanan says you can. Another thing that nobody argues. If they come and he brings korban, second day he comes with a massive korban. Is there machloket whether or not we accept the korban from him? Says the Gemara, at this stage, you'll see that the Gemara is going to fall off of this later. At this stage, the Gemara says, nobody argues that you accept it from him. If he comes. The more the better, right? If you bring him, the question is, if he comes empty-handed, quote unquote, on the second day, do we allow him to do that? or not? This is this stage of the Gemara. Says the Gemara, Ki pligi, the machloket is the ata velo aiti. He came himself, but he didn't bring any korban on the second day. Again, first day, everyone agrees that you have to bring korban. And also everyone agrees that in second day, if you bring a korban, we let it happen. But if you came second day, third day, fourth day, fifth day, if you came and you didn't bring a korban, do we allow that to happen? That is machloket Rabbi Yochanan and Rish Lakish. The Rabbi Yochanan savar reyat panim ba'azara. The Rabbi Yochanan holds reyat panim is only the actual physical coming and visiting the scene of Har Bayit, of the Beit HaMikdash, and therefore kol emat de'ati lo tzarich la'atuyeh. That every time that he comes, he doesn't have to bring it. It just means come see me, and there's no shiur how many times you can come. And that does not include korban re'iyah. The only time that we say re'iyah means coming and bringing a korban ha're'iyah is the first day. The rest of the time when we speak about re'iyah means coming to Beit HaMikdash, empty-handed. And that's what the Mishnah in Pe'ah says, en lahem shiur. You can come as many times as you want empty-handed after the first day, after you brought the korban the first day. That's what it means, re'iyah. Rish Lakish says, no, every time that we say re'iyah means coming with a korban. That's what the word means. So therefore, when the Mishnah in Pe'ah says, these are the things that don't have shiur, you could come as many times as you want. To do re'iyah means you're coming, of course, you're coming with the korban, because coming without the korban is transgression of lo yira'u panai rekam, of the law in the Torah of lo yira'u panai rekam. Says the Gemara. Rish Lakish amar, re'iyat panim bekorban. The kolem adat yisarech la'atuyeh. Re'iyat panim every time is with korban. Every time you come, you have to bring a korban. Now, Rish Lakish is going to go through a series of 3 questions, 3 kashas on Rabbi Yochanan. Eteve Rish Lakish, Rabbi Yochanan. Rish Lakish asked, "Velo yira'u panai rekam, amaleh beikar haregel." He says the basic question. He says, wait a second, how do you read the pasuk? It says when you come, lo yira'u panai rekam. You should not come empty-handed when you come. Rabbi Yochanan says, no, that's talking about the obligation. The obligation is, you're not obligated to go every day. En lahem shiur means you could go more. But the first day, you're obligated to go. So when it says, when you come, don't come empty-handed, that's talking about the obligation. When I obligate you to come, you don't come empty-handed. But afterwards, if you want to go empty-handed, no problem. So he answers the question. That's the first question. Iteve, we asked him a second question, very similar to the first one. Velo yira'u panai rekam. The Braita says, explaining the pasuk of lo yira'u panai rekam, that you shouldn't come empty-handed. Bezvachim. Zvachim means animals, Rashi says here. That means things that you shech, because ofot, the birds of olah, you would not shech. You would do melika. Melika is a system that you would put the bird in between the fingers, and with their sharp thumbnail, they would shech to kill it. It's not shchita, right? So therefore, olat ha'of, korban olah of off is melika. It's not called zvachim. Zvachim comes from the language zevach. Zevach means to shech. So when one wants to compare ofot, birds versus animals, the words used is zvachim versus ofot, right? That's when you talk about korban olah, and you want to compare the bird olah versus the animal olah, the wording that you use is zvachim versus of, korban of. So says the Gemara, this Braita is explaining that when you bring the korban, is zvachim, is it zvachim or is it of? Ata omer bezvachim, o eno ela beofot. Maybe it is birds, or it's melachot. It's the flower offering. How do I know which one of the 3 it is? V'dinhu, the Braita explains, v'dinhu, it should be pashut. You should be able to tell the halacha, because nemra chagigah lehediot v'nemra re'iyah legavoah. There's 2 korbanot that you bring and they're compared together. One is chagigah, eat, and the other one is re'iyah, that you offer to Hashem, the korban olah that you offer to Hashem. So ma chagigah ha'amura lehediot zvachim. Just like Chagigah is zvachim, is animals, Afreya Mura Legavoa Zvachim. Freya also has to be zvachim. Uma hen zvachim. And what is the korban zevach that you bring, the animal offering that you bring? Is it olah or is it shlamim? Olot, ata omer olot, oeno ela shlamim. V'dinhu. That also logically you could come to a conclusion. Says the Braita, Ne'emra Chagigah le'hediot v'ne'emra re'iyah legavoa. The comparison between Chagigah, which is for hediot, for you, for the people who come, and the re'iyah that is for Hashem. Ma Chagigah amura le'hediot bera'ui lo. Just like Chagigah that the people bring has to be fit for them. That means you end up eating it. You end up benefiting from it. Afreya amura legavoa bera'ui lo. For HaKadosh Baruch Hu also should be something that is consumed for Hashem, which is olah. The entire thing, aside from the skin, is going to be consumed for Hashem. So the Braita basically says, you have to bring a zevach, an animal, and the zevach has to be a korban olah. The korban re'iyah has to be an animal, not an oaf, and not a bird, and not a flower offering, and also has to be a korban olah, not a shalamim or anything else. And the second reason that this korban has to be olah, the korban re'iyah has to be a korban olah, that your table should not be full, and the table, so to speak, the mizbeach, the table of Hashem, should be empty. You just put one little piece there. This way, you have your table full, and lavdil, so to speak, Hashem's mizbeach also is full with a full korban on top of it. Amale beikara rega. So this was the kasha of Resh Lakish. Resh Lakish essentially is asking, you see Rabbi Yochanan, every time that you come, you have to bring a korban. Now the question is it going to be an off? Is it going to be an animal or a bird or the korban mincha? But you see, every time you come, you have to bring a korban. Rabbi Yochanan says, Chazak Baruch. This is also talking about the first day. You can't compare obligation with a an initiation that I want to do more the second day. All of this is talking about your obligatory part of the Chag, which is the first day. Simple answer. He basically dodges the question very easily. The third question, Itve, the third question of Rosh Lakish, Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Yehuda Omer Shalosh Kalim B'Shana Nistavu Yisrael La'alot B'Regel V'Chag V'Chag HaMatzot V'Chag HaShavot V'Chag HaSukkot. 3 times, says Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Yehuda, we are obligated to go to Yerushalayim and Chag HaMatzot, Chag HaShavuot and Chag HaSukkot, ve'en nir'in chatzayin. And you can't go halfway. Now we're going to discuss what that means, going half, in half. You can't go in half. The Gemara is going to discuss what that means. Says the Gemara, Mishum shenemar kol zechurcha, because it says all of your zecharim, all of your male have to go there. Ve'en nir'in rekanim. And also you can't go empty-handed. So it says Resh Lakish basically, when you're going there, you can't go empty-handed. You see, this Braita also says, when you go, you have to go with the korban. So guess what Rabbi Yochanan is going to answer?
It's only the first day. Right?
So says the Gemara, Venir in chasayin, venir in rekanim, mishum shenema lo yirau panay rekam, because the pasuk says lo yirau panay rekam. That's the question. Amar le, Rabbi Yochanan answers to Resh Lakish, beikara regel. That also is talking about ikara regel. You seem to mix up the voluntary visit to the obligatory visit. The only thing that the Torah obligates you to come is the first day, and therefore when it says don't come empty-handed, also is talking about the first day. If you want to come afterwards, there's no proof from anywhere that you have to bring a korban. Now that he defended himself, he's going to ask on Resh Lakish from a Braita. Now Rabbi Yochanan is asking. Itve Rabbi Yochanan le Resh Lakish. Yir'eh yira'eh. The pasuk says, when you come to the Chag, Shalosh pamim b'shana yira'eh kol zchurcha et penei Hashem Elokecha. And as we mentioned before, the Gemara darshan this before, Yir'eh and Yira'eh are written the same way. So it says Yira'eh, but it could also be Yir'eh. And the drasha that Rabbi Yochanan has is Ma'ani bechinam. Just like it's comparing you seeing me with me seeing you, says the pasuk. Just like when I see you, says Hashem, I'm not giving you anything. right? You don't get anything for coming up there aside from the spiritual mitzvah and inspiration. But I'm not giving you anything, so you also could come free without giving anything, says Rabbi Yochanan. Afatem bechinam. From this question, the Gemara changes the entire machloket Rabbi Yochanan and Resh Lakish. Says this is a braita. It's a pretty strong braita that it says you could come to Yerushalayim, you have to bring nothing. Every time you come come for free. And the only time that it says come is the first day that you're obligated to come. So Rabbi Yochanan has like a heavyweight bomb cashing on Resh Lakish, and it's such an powerful question. The Gemara says, the whole machloket Resh Lakish and Rabbi Yochanan it has to be switched. Rabbi Yochanan and Resh Lakish are not disagreeing on whether or not you have to bring a korban the second day when you come voluntarily. The question is, can you bring? Nobody argues that you don't have to bring. Even Resh Lakish says you don't have to bring. The question is, can I voluntarily bring a korban re'iyah a second time the second day when I come? I brought it yesterday. I'd rather bring another korban re'iyah. Rabbi Yochanan says, no, you cannot bring. We don't allow it. You only get one bite at an apple. You get only one chance the first day you come and you bring a korban re'iyah. If you don't bring it the first day, it's a different story. But if you already brought your korban re'iyah first day, we don't allow a second one. Resh Lakish says, no, you could. If you want to bring more, chazak baruch, bring more. That's the machloket. Lo prigi the ailu mitchaze, v'nafik ki prigi the atav aiti. The question is, if he comes and he brings it, Rabbi Yochanan damar riyat panim ba'azara riyat panim, hu de ela shiur hale korban yesh la shiur. Rabbi Yochanan says, when we say there's no shiur to riyat panim and you could come as many times as you want, that's just coming yourself. That doesn't have shiur. But korban riyah has shiur. You bring it once, we don't allow it twice. And Resh Lakish says, Resh Lakish amar riyat panim be korban. Riyat panim is with korban. That means you don't have to bring it the second day when you come to Beit HaMikdash. But if you do bring it, we accept it. That's the machloket. The afilu korban nami and shur, because even the korban doesn't have shiur. You could bring as many korbanot re'iyah as you want. And tomorrow we will see how Resh Lakish and Rabbi Yochanan fight this off and what the halacha is going to be be'ezrat Hashem in the days to come.
We said no, father-in-law.